Broadcasting live from atop the Rocky Mountains, the crossroads of the West. You are listening to the Liberty Roundtable Radio Talk Show.
All right. Happy to have you along, my fellow Americans. Donald Trump in the news. Are you surprised? You got Lamar Jackson in the news. You got strange stuff going on in Texas, not even counting the redistricting. I'll tell you about it. It's about your ID and more. This is Liberty Roundtable Live. This is the broadcast for August 19th in the year of our Lord 2025. Hour 2 at 2, promoting God, family, country, protecting life, liberty, and property, using the incredible checks and balances brilliantly placed by the founding fathers in the supreme law of our land, the Constitution for the United States of America. That is our guide. We reject revolution. Unless it's a Jesus revolution, then we're in. Speaking of that, the good sheriff's with me. The founder and president of the Constitutional Sheriffs and Peace Officers Association, CSPOA.org. Join America's growing Posse today and help take America back one county at a time. Become a member, CSPOA.org. Sheriff, welcome back, sir.
Thank you so much, Sam. It's great to be with you this beautiful Tuesday morning.
Amen to that. There's so much going on. I want to talk about this interesting little twist story for you. So as you know, politicians and, haven't wanted to talk to a lot of us talk show hosts that are leading the way when it comes to telling the truth about the problems in America, providing solutions and direction. And it's been tough to get a lot of these, mainstream people on programs and everything else. And if we say something, everybody wants to run from it. You don't hear much from actors and actresses and musicians and sports figures and everything else. But that's changing. As you know, Ted Nugent, dear friend of ours, standing up big time. Good for him for doing so. You got Kid Rock that's had the guts to stand up. You've had John Rich stand up now. You're getting more and more and more of that. Taylor Swift stood up. Now, she's on the wrong side of the discussion, but it makes the point nevertheless. Well, here's the headline now. Lamar Jackson, quarterback for the Baltimore Ravens, posted a message from well-known Salem talk show host Charlie Kirk, founder of Turning Point USA. Anyway, Charlie posted on social media, and Lamar Jackson, I guess, reposted the message. The post Jackson reposted said this: "It's all about Jesus." Sheriff?
Well, so Charlie Kirk first put out that it's all about Jesus, and Lamar Jackson made a ditto.
That is correct. Lamar Jackson loved it and resent it out, whatever you want to call it, retweeted it, re-exed it. I don't know what you call it nowadays. Anyway, forwarded it. And yeah. And so then everybody's now going berserk. This post attracted criticism due to its association with Charlie Kirk, they say, who is a contentious figure opposed to diversity programs and a supporter of Trump. So there you go. You don't like diversity and you're a supporter of Trump. So now anything you say can and will be used against you in the court of public opinion, sir.
Yeah, that's for sure. Well, I don't know if you know Lamar Jackson. I know you're not a big football follower, but Lamar Jackson is arguably the best quarterback in the entire NFL.
I understand. Now, I don't follow a ton of it. I don't watch a ton of football because the games are way, way, way too long. But I love keeping track of the scores and keeping track of some of that stuff. And by the way, my sons do NFL fantasy football, and they're writing an application, believe it or not, to track all that stuff. So I know a little bit about it.
Okay, yeah. Well, I know you have a son that was a very good football player. But this is what amazes me, because he's one of the richest football players ever. He's also black. You probably don't know that.
Don't care, but yes, that's fine.
Yeah, right. Okay. But so him coming out with that took a lot of courage, and he has just risen on my book a great deal. That's really cool that he did it. He's not one of those football players taking a knee during the national anthem. And that's great. And I'm going to be watching him, see how he does this year a lot more than I have in the past. So anyway, I'm not a big football follower. I was when I was younger, but the football business has disappointed me, the way they run it, just too much money, and whatnot. And your favorite players keep changing teams all the time.
Well, that's because you got to be on a winning team and get the equivalent of a ring, don't you, Sheriff? Come on now.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, of course. You got to have that ring. But no, I'm glad you told me that, and I didn't know it. I hadn't heard it. One thing I wanted, just so you know, and we can do this anytime during the next 55 minutes, I want to make clear to everyone what the Constitution says about who has authority in Washington, D.C.
Oh,
okay?
whoa,
so
that's getting wild now, Sheriff.
Yeah.
Want to know what the Constitution says? Okay, we'll do it, ladies and gentlemen. Let me finish this tidbit here, though, about Lamar. Because they say this, Lamar Jackson is known for sharing his Christian beliefs online, including Bible verses and Christian-themed images.
Wow, good for him.
Anyway, they say despite similar posts, this one's kind of bigger because it was Charlie Kirk and it was reposted by Lamar. And so basically it's a thumbs up to Charlie Kirk, and the liberals are just, their heads are blowing up over this. I think it's tremendous. It just shows that more and more leaders are saying enough of this politically correct stuff. When someone's right, back them. When they're wrong, don't. Whether they're black, whether they're white, none of that makes any difference whatsoever. The fact is, Lamar's on the same side as Charlie Kirk and Sam Bushman, and you better get used to it because more people are going to be standing up. When you have tremendous leadership like that, others tend to follow, Sheriff.
Yeah, that's true. And it was a short and humble post, and God bless him for it. I wish more would do that. And I would really, really like to shake his hand, because it is about Jesus. What you and I do is about Jesus. I believe in freedom because it was a gift from Jesus Christ. I believe what I do right now in the work I do, that it is ordained by him, and that the founding fathers were inspired by God Almighty to bring about America and to establish our constitutional government, and that the Constitution was inspired by him. And so I'm glad he brought that up, because now it gave me the courage to say what you and I very seldom say on this show or any other, because we want to make sure that all people are welcome here and all views are welcome, and that this isn't a religious hour, but to me, it always has been.
Ladies and gentlemen, think about America, and think about our founding, and think about who we are as a people, and then think about standing up for truth wherever it's found. And so last hour we had on former Congressman Steve Stockman. He ran twice, 20 years apart, won both times in Congress. And now they're redistricting in Texas, and he's thinking about running again, Sheriff.
Well, I hope he does, because he had it stolen from him, and the Obama administration, I believe, was the one that really went after him, wasn't it?
I think so, yeah.
So what happened to him was an outrage, and I hope he still has the stamina and courage to try it again. So God bless him.
Well, the redistricting in Texas is kind of one of the big deals. And if he can get in the right scenario, that'd be great. Speaking of that, Donald Trump announced on Truth Social that he aims to abolish mail-in ballots and inaccurate voting machines to ensure honesty in the 2026 midterm elections. And he wants to do it through an executive order, Sheriff. Trump claims that elections with mail-in ballots can never be honest, and he describes the voting machines as highly inaccurate and controversial. Trump stated that the United States is the only country using mail-in voting, and then he alleges, and I agree with him, that it's causing massive voter fraud. Trump highlighted his commitment to leading this effort, which he anticipates will face strong opposition from Democrats. Since the 2020 election, believe it or not, I don't know if you know this part, the RNC has focused on election integrity, initially establishing a department in 2024 about presidential elections that relates to communications, politics, along with a legal arm. They say in its first election cycle, the department, the RNC, filed over 100 election integrity lawsuits across 20 states. They're getting it done, hopefully, and they're gearing up for the midterms, focusing on Senate races. We'll talk about it with a good sheriff more in seconds on your radio.
Get ready to be part of something incredible. We're breaking barriers and delivering the powerful stories that mainstream media won't touch. Your support is what fuels our mission to revolutionize journalism and bring you the truth. Join our passionate community of changemakers by donating at libertynewsradio.com today. Together, we're creating the future of news.
Do you know what is great about America? Ask an Immigrant. Ask an Immigrant is a new podcast dedicated to helping Americans, especially our youth, value, appreciate, and be grateful for the freedoms we have here in America. Join host Lydia Wallace-Nuttall as she interviews immigrants from around the world to discover their inspiring personal stories about why they came to America. To learn more about why America is the most prosperous, greatest country in the world, download the Loving Liberty app or go to lovingliberty.net.
As the United States boldly stepped forward in the glorious light provided by its new Constitution in 1787, the nations of the earth were in awe of the newfound strength and hope of this free land. Today, the nation stands at a crossroads. A divergence from the original intent put forth in the United States Constitution has brought grave threats to our beloved nation. A miracle is needed if the United States is to survive. That miracle is again the pure application of the United States Constitution. I'm Scott Bradley. In my To Preserve the Nation book and lecture series, I bring forth truths that will help raise up a new generation of statesmen like those noble Americans who founded this land. Vigorous application of these principles will invigorate and restore the nation, and we may become again the freest, most prosperous, most respected, and happiest nation on earth. Visit topreservethenation.com to begin that restoration.
It's my prayer that President Donald Trump can create peace between the Ukrainians and the Russians. I pray we can have peace between Israel and Hamas and everybody else. I stand for peace. And Trump has done more to advocate for that peace. People want to criticize President Trump saying, oh, he failed in his meeting with Putin. I don't agree with that one bit. He didn't fail. Whenever you have discussions that are complicated, you don't put all your cards on the table the first go round and just, aim. Shoot and then aim. You strategically go in with plans. Anyway, I digress, except for Trump is moving on so many different fronts that are really good, and I really support a lot of what he's doing. However, when we talk about these elections, President Trump announced on Truth Social that he aims to abolish mail-in ballots and inaccurate voting machines by executive order. Now, Sheriff, you wanted to talk about specifically, hey, what are the authorities at the general level of our government? What are the authorities of the president, etc., constitutionally speaking, sir?
Well, Sam, I've studied the Constitution quite a bit. And as soon as this happened in Washington, D.C., I said to myself, because all these people, of course, on the left were, he doesn't have the authority to do this. He can't take over a police department in Washington, D.C. Washington, D.C. is independent and they're sovereign and blah, blah, blah. Sam, I'm going to say something pretty bold here. Washington, D.C. does not have any authority whatsoever to exist as a city government. They have zero. And there might be a little caveat to that. However, let's go to Article 1, Section 8 of the U.S. Constitution. Article 1, Section 8 is where the United States government, specifically Congress, is delegated 20 powers. And it's it's United States government and Congress, what powers they have. It says this. This is Article 1, Section 8, Clause 17. Quoting, to exercise exclusive legislation. Who has the authority to exercise exclusive legislation? The federal government. Okay? And Donald Trump is the CEO of the federal government. To exercise exclusive legislation in all cases whatsoever.
How many?
All cases whatsoever. All. That's 100%. Okay? In all cases whatsoever, over such district, in parentheses now, not exceeding 10 miles square, as may by cession of particular states. In other words, the states there are required to cede overland. That's what cession is. Cession, give the land, sell the land. The federal government is supposed to buy it from them. And by cession of particular states, so that's the land that these states gave up, and that's why it's supposed to be small, relatively small, 10 miles square. Doesn't say 10 square miles, it's a 10 miles square. And the acceptance of Congress become the seat of government of the United States, and to exercise like authority over all places purchased by the consent of the legislature of the state in which the same shall be for the erection of forts, magazines, arsenals, dockyards, and other needful buildings. So, Sam, this jurisdiction is broader than a lot of people have been saying. So, first of all, does the president have the right to send National Guard or police to Los Angeles, Portland, Seattle, Chicago, any place where there's violence and they're attacking a federal building? He has the authority to do it. So, only to go protect federal buildings, though, that were just aforementioned. Now, we need to make sure that we understand.
Let me throw in a couple of other things that I think. Federal buildings, they can also talk about certain roads, and there's a little bit of a justification for support of making those roadways clear and everything else, because to defend America, so the whole general government's responsible for the defense of this country from enemies, foreign and domestic, I might add. They have authority to make sure that the roads remain clear and serviceable and accessible for that very purpose of national security as well. And many of these rioters and everything else are shutting down bridges and shutting down highways and shutting down. And so there's authority there, too.
Yes, exactly. That's all true. So to exercise exclusive legislation in all cases whatsoever means the city has no authority except outside the 10 miles square where the United States Capitol is. And any police, like Capitol Police, can be authorized by the United States Congress. That is legal. They have the authority to do that. They have the authority to have FBI that can and do law enforcement in all federal buildings nationwide, and specifically to protect the offices and congressmen and all federal officials within Washington, D.C. And so people saying he didn't have the authority, President Trump and Congress totally have the authority to do that.
Remember, we have dual sovereignties, ladies and gentlemen, in America, and we find out the clear details of that from Antonin Scalia in Sheriff Richard Mack, the Prince Mack case, where 7 sheriffs beat Bill Clinton at the Supreme Court, and they literally double down and highlight this in this case, and then cite other cases that string together several court case realities of this being the case, which is, hey, these dual sovereignties, they have different responsibilities, and those are not, these dual sovereignties are not at odds with one another. What they want you to believe is somehow the state governors or state rep, they're always at odds with the feds. No, if they look at their jurisdictional responsibilities and they look at dual sovereignty, it's really easy to understand that they have different roles. And so, yes, the general government cannot force the state leaders to do things. They can't stop them from not doing so, but they also can do their job alongside, and there's not a conflict. So when this comes to immigration, when this comes to federal buildings, when this comes to access to roads, the list goes on, there are absolute authorities, and the governors act like, well, I'm going to fight Donald on this. You don't even have jurisdiction to fight, okay? There's dual sovereignties, and your jurisdiction doesn't relate to what Donald's doing. In fact, you're there to support the president, which you should do, but you can't be forced to. Other than that, you need to get out of the way, or you can whatever,
Yes.
but you
Yes.
can't interfere either is the reason I'm spending time on this, Sheriff.
Well, I really like that you brought up the case, because the case is solidly backing what you brought up, and that is dual sovereignty. And that's mentioned in the Supreme Court case 4 or 5 different times. And the significance of that is dual sovereignty doesn't mean they're both the equal size or equal responsibility, but there is dual sovereignty. And then Scalia brings up, you've got to define the sphere of authority for each one. And that's pretty easy to look at too, when Scalia says the United States government only has discrete enumerated powers. In other words, the federal government is extremely limited by the Constitution. Still has dual sovereignty, but theirs is much smaller than the states. And the states have gone along with the federal government in its tyranny for several decades now, probably the last 100 years, maybe even more, because of political posturing with the Democrats and the Republicans, which goes back to Washington saying, I am warning you that a two-party system will be the bane of American liberty. And sure enough.
And boy, howdy, is that prophetic, Sheriff.
Yeah, no kidding. So I'm glad we had this discussion. I think everybody in the country needs to read Article 1, Section 8, and you'll also find that the Federal Reserve is totally and completely unconstitutional. That is mentioned in Article 1, Section 8. The United States Congress had no authority to turn that over to turn their responsibility to coin money and regulate the value thereof to a private cartel of bankers. And that's what.
And by the way, to add to your point, Alex Newman just did an interview with Roger Stone, and Roger Stone is articulating now that Donald Trump is open to abolishing the Federal Reserve. My response is, let's go. Where do I sign, sir?
Oh, Roger. Yeah. Yes, I pray that he does, because whoever controls your money controls your country. And one man stood up and defied the president and said, no, we're not lowering interest rates. Who in the hell appointed him to anything? Who died and put Jerome Powell in charge of our money? One man making that decision.
That's not even, by the way, the one man doesn't even work for the government. If you look up in the phone book, I mean, Bo Greitz back in the 90s highlighted this. It's not federal and there's no reserve. It's not even in the phone book under government, is it?
Whether it is or isn't, it's not a part of our government. They have taken it away from our government. Once they formed this central bank, and these are international bankers that are in charge of the Federal Reserve now.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, a big shout out to Lamar Jackson. A big shout out to Charlie Kirk. Yes, gentlemen, you're spot on. It's all about Jesus Christ. Amen to that reality check. A big shout out to President Trump, who announced on social that he aims to abolish mail-in ballots and problematic voter machines. Trump stated that the United States is the only country using mail-in voting. Trump claims that it causes massive voter fraud. Boy, howdy, is that spot on as well. When we get back, I got a concern that I want to share with the good sheriff and get his opinion on. Meanwhile, you can become a member of the Sheriff's Posse today, cspoa.org.
Exposing corruption, informing citizens, pursuing liberty. You're listening to Liberty News Radio.
Breaking news this hour from Town Hall. I'm Rich Thomason. European leaders tell President Trump they want a Ukraine ceasefire They're also welcoming U.S.-backed security guarantees for Ukraine once the war comes to an end.
During high-level White House talks with NATO and European leaders, President Trump said ending the Russia-Ukraine war is within reach.
This is something that's very attainable.
Ukrainian President Zelensky welcomed a meeting with Russia's Vladimir Putin, while German Chancellor Merz emphasized quickly halting the violence.
To be honest, we all would like to see a ceasefire.
And the NATO secretary said Europe views U.S. support for Ukrainian security guarantees as a breakthrough. Greg Clugston, the White House.
House Oversight Committee Chairman James Comer says Friday is the day. He says the Justice Department will start handing over Jeffrey Epstein-related files. Protest in Sacramento over a controversial bill pending in the California Assembly. It's legislation that opponents call a child trafficker's dream.
The legislation, AB 495, would significantly expand the range of adults who can fill out a child's caregiver's authorization affidavit. Southern California pastor Jack Hibbs has called it, quote, the most dangerous bill we've ever seen, unquote. He's leading a rally at the state capitol today. He says AB 495 is a dangerous bill that puts every child at risk. The Alliance Defending Freedom argues that AB 495 is likely unconstitutional. This is Larry Marino reporting.
3-day strike by Air Canada flight attendants is coming to an end. The Flight Attendants Union says a tentative contract agreement has been reached. The walkout upended the plans of thousands of air travelers all across North America. On Wall Street this hour, the Dow trading about 267 points higher, the Nasdaq down 175. More on these stories at townhall.com.
Hi, it's Mike Gallagher. You work hard, you build wisely, your home has become one of your greatest assets. If you're staying put this summer, this might be the perfect time to put that equity to work. Whether it's funding a second home, helping your kids get their start, or simply creating more margin in your financial life, Mike and Brian at Fellowship Home Loans are the only ones I trust to guide you through it. They've done loans for my family. They tailor every loan to fit your goals. Fellowship is a direct lender and operates with your best interest in mind. If you're looking to access your equity through a refi or exploring a HELOC for some cash this summer for a second property, or maybe tackle those updates you've been putting off, start with people you trust, people I trust. Go to fellowshiphomeloans.com/Mike G, fellowshiphomeloans.com/Mike G, or call 800-510-MIKE, 800-510-6453. Fellowship Home Loans, mortgage lending by the book.
Nationwide Mortgage Bankers, DBA Fellowship Home Loans, Equal Housing Lender, NMLS number 819382.
Why don't we say to the government writ large that they have to spend a little bit less? Anybody ever had less money this year than you had last? Anybody ever having a 1% pay cut? You deal with it. That's what government needs, a 1% pay cut. If you take a 1% pay cut across the board, you have more than enough money to actually pay for the disaster relief. But nobody's going to do that because they're fiscally irresponsible. Who are they? Republicans. Who are they? Democrats. Who are they? Virtually the whole body is careless and reckless with your money. So the money will not be offset by cuts anywhere. The money will be added to the debt, and there will be a day of reckoning. What's the day of reckoning? The day of reckoning may well be the collapse of the stock market. The day of reckoning may be the collapse of the dollar. When it comes, I can't tell you exactly, but I can tell you it has happened repeatedly in history when countries ruin their currency.
In the medical field, IT security is crucial. Our highly skilled consultants are HIPAA certified and have 20-plus years of experience servicing medical clinics, billing, and supply companies. We offer comprehensive endpoint protection, guarding your computers and servers against all stages of threats. And with our 24/7 monitoring services, you'll never worry about extensive downtime again. Ready to level up your IT support? Call 801-706-6980 today and discover how great IT services can be with managed IT services.
Experience the untamed spirit of the American West with Range Magazine. Each issue is a visual journey featuring award-winning photography and compelling stories that capture the heart of ranching and rural life. Stay informed on the challenges and triumphs of those who live and work on the land. Subscribe today and receive quarterly editions delivered to your doorstep, and join a community that cherishes the enduring legacy of the Western frontier. Visit rangemagazine.com to subscribe.
Broadcasting live from atop the Rocky Mountains, the crossroads of the West. You are listening to the Liberty RoundTable Radio Talk Show.
Back with you live, the good sheriff, Sheriff Richard Mack with me, CSPOA.org. That stands for the Constitutional Sheriffs and Peace Officers Association, CSPOA.org. Get a copy of the Supreme Court case summary where you can learn what's going on and how it all works and what the breakdown is. It's all about the rule of law, and Sheriff Mack and 6 other sheriffs, so 7 of them total, beat Bill Clinton at the Supreme Court. You got to dig it. Check it out, CSPOA.org. You can also become a member of the Posse and help with solutions today. An elite group of constitutional Americans that are standing for something. Become part of the, what do you want to say, the in crowd? Become part of the solution makers at CSPOA.org. Now, this is the worst idea I've heard of in a long time, Sheriff, but here it is. The DOJ has proposed merging the ATF, so the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives, with the Drug Enforcement Agency or Administration, aiming to, quote, increase efficiency against violent crimes and drug cartels. Now, the plan, backed by AG Pam Bondi, disclosed in the DOJ's fiscal year 2026 budget request, was mentioned in the March DOJ memo. Anyway, that's the problem. Gun rights activists, Republican congressmen, argue that the merger could be exploited to target gun owners. Second Amendment Foundation and Gun Owners of America and others oppose the merger, citing the possibility, I would say the probability of, greater gun control measures, and most importantly, on this idea that, hey, it'll eventually be weaponized against the people. I'm for abolishing the DEA and the BATF. I don't think we need to have the government control our guns. Go read your Second Amendment if you question me. And secondly, when it comes to the DEA, the war on drugs is a flat-out failure, Sheriff. So I just think we abolish them both. Quit. We don't need to merge them or do anything else. Now, is there a threat? Yes. But we don't need to worry about drug cartels. We just need to worry about criminals. I don't care if it's drugs or sex trafficking or, stealing of money or mismanagement of funds, or it doesn't matter the crime. We don't need a DEA to solve it. We've already got the Justice Department. What do we need all these other clown show departments for in the first place? So anyway, Pam Bondi wanting to merge them. Everybody else going, whoa, hold on. That's crazy talk. Your thoughts?
Well, in my presentation, I talk about the DEA and how corrupt they were, and they were having sex parties down in Colombia where they were supposed to be fighting the cartels, and the cartels were providing the prostitutes for these federal agents. And nothing ever happened to them, even though they committed about 10 felonies each agent. And this was going on for years, the report and investigation exposed. And so that is when they should have got rid of the DEA right then and there. Does the federal government have any authority to go after drug interdiction? Yes, at the border. That's it. The only place. That's it, period. Recently, Trump said, we want to go into Mexico and get rid of the cartels. Well, guess what the president of Mexico said? No, you're not. And first of all, drug trafficking in Mexico is about 10% of the entire country's GDP. And so there's too much money. It's not going to happen. But I totally agree with what you said. You've heard me say this before. I'll say it again. The BATF should be abolished. I would say merge it with the Federal Reserve and get rid of the Federal Reserve.
Yeah, you could merge like 50 programs and then just ditch them all, huh?
Merge it with the IRS, the Federal Reserve, and get rid of all of it. And ICE or Customs can continue their drug interdiction at the border. After that, it belongs to the sheriffs and to the city police.
And it also belongs to the state, because the state can cooperate when it's cross-county lines, et cetera, in a coordination, right?
Absolutely. And if they want to set up their little drug task forces, go right ahead. But, Sam, you called it absolutely right. The drug war has been a huge failure. And what do? They want more money and more manpower every year. And what happens? The drug problem gets worse every year. And I
once asked some of these people how much money, if I gave them all that they needed, how much would they need? And what they said was, write a blank check and we'll fill it in as needed.
Yes, exactly.
That's the problem. And that's why it's a failure, because the drug problem's worse than ever. And we've spent literally gazillions of dollars on this thing, and we haven't really made any headway. In fact, the problem seems like it's worse than ever.
No.
Now, it's a little better under Trump because we don't have as many illegals crossing the border and all that. So I'm not downing the progress made. I'm just saying that, hey, we've created this problem by pretending we're solving it. When are we going to quit deceiving ourselves and realize that there's other better ways and solutions, right?
Well, there have to be. And I don't know a lot of what those are, but I know what we're doing has failed. And I know that we as communities, church leaders, school leaders, government leaders, law enforcement leaders, all need to sit down and first and foremost admit that what we've been doing has failed, and then get their heads together and brainstorm what we should be trying to do. Bottom line, we will never arrest away the drug problem. Haven't we gotten that message yet?
And we will never solve the drug problem by keeping people in prison. Half these drug gang leaders can control their people from the prisons. And so that is not going to solve it. Can I throw in a couple of tidbits? I'm probably not even, an important enough person to sit at the round table of the discussion you propose. But since I'm a self-appointed Trump advisor, maybe I'll throw some advice out. What do you say?
Yeah, go ahead.
Why don't we make this a parent-led effort? Okay, the answer is in the family. The family is the fundamental unit of society. And if you go study all the, the drug classes or drug, knowledge and data set, they say that parents, by caring about their children, interacting with their children, being aware of where their children are going, monitoring their children, all these things, hey, the parents are the greatest anti-drug there is. The family is where the solutions need to start. Now, can there be support from government? Absolutely. Are there other, yeah, but it needs to be a family-led solution. There's no other plan that'll work. Now, the church can help too, don't get me wrong. But if it's not led by parents, if it's not led by an intact home, buddy, you'll never beat the problem, because these people want love and they want support and they want acceptance. And if families won't give it to them, the drug cartels and the gangs will. That's really the core of the discussion, Sheriff.
That's right. And Sam, you know that I was an undercover narcotics officer, and that was one of the worst times of my life.
I'll bet.
I absolutely hated it. Dawn hated it more than I did. It was before cell phones, so I couldn't keep in touch with her. And I remember 2 or 3 times where I was completely out of touch with my wife, and she would call my liaison officer, who was Michael Mock, or my sergeant, Jerry Markling, and she would say, I haven't heard from him. He says, and sometimes they had to kind of do bedside manner with her because they hadn't heard from me either, because I had no way of calling them.
Well, and the problem is if you get too aggressive in trying to contact and check in, you get busted and your undercover's blown. So, that's the issue, right?
Right. And I did have, as you'll recall, I pretended to be a cab driver. So I had a radio to my, quote, dispatch for taxi service. But it was actually in the home of my sergeant. And his wife and he manned the radio frequency there in their home. And that was the only place it existed. It did not exist at the police department. It existed in their home. So if I needed to get somebody, once I got in my car, I could say, hey, just so you know, this is Cabby Gary, and everything's fine, and I'm in Springville right now at a big party. And yeah. And people say, oh, you got paid to party. I hated those parties worse than any. And I also hated beer. And
well, you see the human depravity is the problem, right?
Well, yeah, I did. And Sam, I lived in the drug culture. That's where I was. I lived around ex-cons. and drug dealers and alcoholics and drug addicts, and it taught me a lot. I mean, it taught me, wow, it was an education that deserved a doctorate degree. And I deserved also an Oscar for the acting I did. But it was just a horrible, horrible time. But
yeah, now we need to get the good sheriff in a movie. If he's going to do acting, he did Undercover. He's pretty good at it. Let's get him in a movie. He can do some acting there, you know. All right, hang tight. Quick pause. I criticized Pam Bondi over trying to merge the DEA and the BATF. That's a bad idea. Shut it down. Since I'm a, self-appointed Trump advisor, that's my advice. When we get back, though, I want to praise Bondi. I'll tell you why.
Attention collectors and savvy investors. We are excited to announce a momentous evolution in our journey. Introducing Free Water Coin Company, formerly known as Rust Coin and Gift. This rebranding takes us back to the very roots of where it all began. Free Water, Oregon. It's a tribute to the legacy of Al Rust and a celebration of 3 generations of dedication to excellence in the world of coins and precious gifts. Al, Brian, and Jake Rust standing strong through 64 years of service. Discover a world of exceptional service at Free Water Coin Company, your premier destination for genuine, honest money and precious gifts. Under Brian's expert guidance, Free Water Coin Company, building on the legacy of Rust Coin and Gift, continues its tradition of trust and excellence. Visit us at our Provo, Utah location. Explore our treasures online at freewatercoinco.com or call us at 801-377-1574. Free Water Coin Company, where your future is built one honest coin at a time.
Are you ready to stand up for your community and support your local sheriff? Join the Constitutional Sheriffs and Peace Officers Association and become a vital member of the Sheriff's Citizens Posse. At cspoa.org, we empower citizens like you through weekly webinars, arming you with the knowledge to back your constitutional county sheriff. Together, we can uphold our Constitution and ensure liberty and justice for all. Your community needs you now more than ever.
This is a battle between truth and deceit. A battle between forces that would enslave this country in darkness and between a media that wants to present you with the truth. We are being censored. America's news outlets no longer provide the truth. 90% of news outlets in the United States are controlled by 6 corporations. The mission of the Epoch Times is to chase the truth, to ground all statements in fact.
TheEpochTimes.com. All right, ladies and gentlemen, Sheriff Mack with me, cspoa.org. Check it out. Become a member of the Posse today, would you please? Now, I want to highlight this. So I've criticized Pam Bondi because, hey, merging the DEA and the BATF is a bad idea. It'll be weaponized, and boy, howdy, would that be a doozy of an organization. And then, hey, if you merge the IRS with that sucker, they'll have absolute power, and it'll just circumvent all of government. Anyway, so I'm critical of Pam over that, but I want to just kind of highlight that I'm true to form, folks. I don't intend to criticize or attack Pam personally. Okay? What I always want to focus on is ideas, principles, because we've got the founding fathers' guidance on those principles. We've got the supreme law of the land as our really rule of law on these principles, etc. And so I really want to kind of highlight that as important. I don't criticize people to criticize people. I literally always focus on these principles. So now I got to give some praise to Pam Bondi. Here's the headline, and then we'll let you comment, Sheriff. Pam Bondi appeared on Fox Business Monday to warn local and state leaders that cooperating with federal immigration policy is no longer optional. It is mandatory. Bondi ended Washington, D.C.'s sanctuary city status and put Drug Enforcement Administration personnel and the leader in charge of this Metropolitan Police to go ahead and tackle crime and everything else. In an appearance on Kudlow, Bondi said she issued 32 warning letters across the country, as well as notified 7 governors. We're taking action. And if you guys don't get this done, we will bring in the feds and make it happen, just like we did in L.A. and just like we're doing in D.C. Now there's Posse Comitatus. The Democrats are losing their minds, but you've already kind of documented that, hey, there's some precedent for this and some acceptability for this. What are your thoughts here on Pam and her, hey, this is not voluntary anymore. This is mandatory. And the letters are going out to the worst offenders and saying, hey, this is going to stop.
Well, participating with them, she can't force them. And the states don't have to. I don't agree with that. Every state should, and every sheriff should, and every county should. And there's no question. All of them should be cooperating so that we can get rid of this.
Now, let me stop you there. And that's the point that I want to highlight. The reason I'm praising Pam is because she's saying this. Cooperating is mandatory. She didn't say that you have to do everything, but cooperating doesn't mean that you go on the offensive and carry out the will of Pam. Cooperating means that you don't get in the way, that you don't interfere, and that you don't create problems, lawsuits, jurisdiction, boundary. And that's what she said, though. So we'll see what that means. But that's why I give her praise because, hey, I agree. You've got to cooperate with the general government and support their sovereignty, their sphere of influence and responsibility, right?
Correct. And so if they say we're coming in and we're doing this, or if they don't even tell them, they don't have to. I would highly recommend that they try to work with the local sheriff on that. But they don't have to because it is their jurisdiction, and they have very limited jurisdiction. I'll be the first one to proclaim that, but they do have jurisdiction in certain areas, and we just read Article 1, Section 8, Clause 17, where they absolutely do. And so maybe she's getting tougher. I would like to see that. But Pam Bondi, while she was AG of Florida, actually supported red flag laws. And Byron Donalds, being part of the legislature there, voted against it. And that's why I'm supporting him for the new governor of Florida. And I met him when I was in Florida at the Sheriff's Association conference. He's a good man, and I really liked what he had to say.
Amen.
So I do support Pam Bondi on some things. She's been a little bit iffy on some constitutional issues like red flag laws. But I hope that she's getting a good education on the Constitution and while she's in there with Trump and others.
And by the way, Pam, if you want to work with law enforcement and you need some guidance and some training, all you got to do is get a hold of the good sheriff, Richard Mack at the CSPOA, CSPOA.org, and they'll be glad to go ahead and help train on the Constitution and the rule of law and due process and all those things. Now, here's what Pam Bondi said that I really approve of, Sheriff. On an appearance on Kudlow, she said she issued the 32 warning letters to mayors across the country as well as 7 governors. And she says this, comply. That doesn't mean you have to do everything. You don't have to go out of your way, but you got to comply. You can't get in the way. Okay? And then she says this, if they don't comply with us, Larry, we're going to work with our other agencies to cut off their federal funding. I'm not really for the funding in the first place, but that is an appropriate response. You can either do whatever you want to. States, we realize you have your own sovereignty and your own authority, but at the same time, hey, if you don't work with us, we'll just chop off your funding. I think she's right.
Yeah, she is. And it's really sad that the money is used as a prop or a tool like that because the federal government should not be funding our cities or our police departments or our sheriff's offices because where do they get the money? They get it from us. They get it from the states. And Gavin Newsom even said, well, we're going to stop sending money to Trump's administration. You've got 24 hours to comply. And that's where it ended. You never heard from it again because that's typical Gavin Newsom. He doesn't know what he's doing. He doesn't know about the proper spending in his state or in Washington, D.C. And that's why it really scares me that he could become president of the United States. Oh, my goodness. Yeah, he's done such a great job in Florida, in California, you know. But,
there you go.
Sam, there's another topic I want to bring up.
Yeah.
Just real quick. Have you ever heard of Eric Johnson?
Yes.
He's the mayor of Dallas.
Yes.
And he's black, and he's a Republican.
Yes.
And he was on Fox Business this morning.
Yes.
Saying to all New Yorkers, move your businesses here. We are a sanctuary from socialism.
Well, boy, howdy do I like that, right?
I know.
Well, and I appreciate what he's saying, and I like that, but let me tell you, I got a problem with Texas a little bit. On one hand, they said these Democrats were criminals and hidden by, J.D. Pritzker in Illinois. But now when they come back, why didn't they just basically force a vote and then arrest them on the way out? It's interesting.
Yeah.
Nevertheless, here's the deal. The Texas Department of Public Safety unveiled a new, what do they call this thing? They call it a new design and a security features set for their state driver's license and legal ID cards, okay? And the updated cards, they say, feature a clear layout of personal information, a black laser-engraved star indicating real ID compliance required since May 7th to board domestic flights and accessing certain federal facilities. We fought against real ID 20 years ago, 30 years ago. I mean, it was just everybody was on it. It was the talk of the town. Now it just simply, in May, quietly passed Trump's desk, and now quietly states like Texas and Utah and everybody else are mandating real ID without a whimper, Sheriff.
Yeah, and as you know, I've got that license, and I have that black star in the top right corner. And still, no one could tell me why we did this. I don't even think Kristi Noem could tell you why we did it. We just, the Democrats were pushing it. Obama was pushing it, never did it. Biden was pushing it, never did it. And here comes Kristi Noem, and they get it done. So Homeland Security Director, Secretary, Kristi Noem, and every time I've gone through an airport, and I go through airports a lot.
More than almost anybody that I know, actually.
Yeah, same here. And so I would ask them why. They would remind us, remember, in May, you have to have your real ID. And I said, why? What is it? What purpose does it serve? Nobody knew. Why the change? Why is my Arizona license right now not good, and that one will be better? Why? Ron Paul told us because it contains all your personal information, even DNA. How they got my DNA, I'm not sure. But that's what Ron Paul came out, and he was really dead set against it. And I trust Ron Paul more than anybody else in the federal government, especially TSA or Kristi Noem. And so anyway, I went and got it, but I still don't get it. And Dawn, I don't think, is going to go get hers. She's just going to use her passport, which makes me wonder what's in the passport that my other driver's license doesn't have already. So I don't get it, Sam. I don't like it.
The answer is usually the devil is in the details, and you're going to find out later why they've done all this stuff. But I'm telling you right now, it isn't going to bode well because it's not less government, spying on you. It violates your right to privacy. It violates your right to autonomy, right to be left alone. I mean, any way you want to frame that right, look at your 4th and 5th Amendments to the Constitution to kind of highlight a lot more of that. Hey, it's a violation of everything. And so beware. But Texas isn't even, they're not even saying anything about it. So I appreciate their bastion of rejection of socialism. I love it. Let's prove it and reject this federal law, too, and say we're not doing that in Texas.
But Dallas is a pretty liberal place.
Yeah, it is.
Pretty liberal.
You're right about that reality. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're flat out of time. Sheriff Mack with me, ladies and gentlemen. CSPOA.org. Become a member today. We're syndicated by the Loving Liberty Radio Network. Spread the word, share the love, download the iPhone or the Android apps, or simply listen online at lovingliberty.net. I'm Sam Bushman. God save our constitutional republic.